Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for coming here in Wayne County in the Country Bar and Grill. You guys can clap if you want to. There we go. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it. So why in the world would I be out here in Western New York when some of you who are watching just saw me in Queens last night? That's true. I was. And I literally got in a plane and came up here. And now I'm here running around Western New York. And one of the things I want to bring up in Western New York, particularly with what happened yesterday with the Rittenhouse case, is I want to bring up the Second Amendment. Now, some people would say, well, wait a minute, Larry, you're going to touch the Second Amendment now? It's kind of risky, kind of touchy to do that. And if you've watched me over the years, you will notice something, that I'm the guy who will bring up the Second Amendment anytime, even after a mass shooting. After a mass shooting, even Republicans go, well, you know, now's not the time. Let's rethink. But I'll be controversial, and it'll make some of you upset, I know, but I'll say it anyway. All of our rights, all of the time. Even after a challenging, court case that divides the country, even after a mass shooting, even after anything, it doesn't matter. All of our rights, all of the time, to include the Second Amendment. It's not the second suggestion. It's not a bill of suggestions. It is a bill of rights. So we do have to talk about that even in tough times. And I'll stand by that even if it makes some of you upset when I bring it up. The Second Amendment does matter. And what I would ask you is, many of you have seen when I talk about the Second Amendment, I often talk about it actually from an urban point of view, which most people don't. Most people about the Second Amendment from a hunter's point of view, or they want to be a militia out in the woods point of view. And that's fine too. I'm not against any of that. Enjoy any way you want to enjoy. But I talk about it from the idea of an equalizer point of view. In cities, very often, the people who are in the most trouble are those who are the most vulnerable. Women with children and elderly. And when some bad guy decides, he or she, almost always a he, and usually two or three of them, decide they want to take someone's money or take someone's purse, that person has no defense. They're just going to say, take everything. And if they want to keep taking it, they're going to keep taking it. But imagine if there was actually a Second Amendment, a culture of the Second Amendment in more cities. Well, Larry, there'll be guns everywhere. There are guns everywhere now, right? Does anybody watch what happens in Rochester, what happens in New York City? There's guns everywhere now. In Chicago, there's already guns everywhere, just illegal guns. And the only people who have them are the thugs. That's it. That's happening right now. So the argument is a silly argument. So you tell me, Larry, I want to arm all the old people? I do not. But I want to allow them to be armed if they choose to be armed. That's what I want. The Second Amendment is not a requirement. You don't have to buy a firearm. If you don't want one, please don't buy one. It is not required. But if you want one, please go ahead. If you feel it's right for you to defend yourself, please do so in the way you feel appropriate. That's what we're about. So if some gentleman who's walking around in a poor neighborhood decides that he thinks the right answer to defend himself, and he's tired of being bullied by the local thugs, then he wants to have a firearm, I wouldn't stop him. And if he draws down on those thugs one day and he shoots one of them, all of a sudden what happens? Those thugs start saying, wait a minute, is this really an easy target? Maybe because someone looks feeble, that firearm makes them an equalizer, and maybe I need to be worried about that. And maybe I shouldn't be bullying people in my neighborhood. That's what I'm talking about. But there's something else. And those of you who own a firearm know what I'm talking about. What you'll find, and again, will make some people angry. But from last night, I'll tell you something. Someone on my chat, when I was talking about it, made a very valid point. And they said, Kyle Rittenhouse had more fire discipline than many cops. And I would agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I would agree with that. Why? Because Kyle Rittenhouse probably had more training than most cities train their cops. Isn't it the cops are bad? I'm not saying that. I'm saying the cops aren't trained. And ask cops. Many of them, in many cities, they have very small amounts of training. Hardly any training with firearms at all. Kyle had more. So why does that matter? Because all of you who own a firearm, as a civilian, not as a police officer, as a military person, as a civilian, here's what I guarantee you. Once you purchase that firearm, you started thinking about your own protection, your own safety more than you did before. You start thinking about it. Heads are nodding, by the way. You guys say about heads are nodding. That's how it works. And if you're watching, your head's nodding too. So why do people talk about, let's start having firearms in urban areas? Because if a person owns a firearm in an urban area, they begin to take their own safety, their own security more seriously. They stop relying only on police forces or even on gangs. They start relying on themselves. They start thinking about themselves. Something else. Owning a firearm creates a culture of ownership, which is why you see so many people talking about that in urban areas. Owning a firearm creates an environment, an idea of ownership, and it does matter. So yes, I'm talking about the Second Amendment the day after the Rittenhouse trial. I am. I'll talk about it anytime because it does matter. It is important. It doesn't go away because you may like or not like it. To be forward, this happened in the case of Kyle too. 3 people attacked Kyle, and the firearm was an equalizer. 3 adult men attacked a kid. Was it 4? I'm sorry, so it was 24. Sorry, 4. I didn't follow it that closely. So 4, fine. 4 adult men attacked Kyle, and his firearm was an equalizer. And this was in the city. Exactly what I've been talking about for 4 or 5 years now actually played out in the streets in Wisconsin. This does matter. Now you might say, Larry, I think it's terrible to take a firearm to a protest. I think generally that's true. Generally, it's probably not a good idea, right? I wouldn't do it, and I don't think you should. It doesn't make it illegal. But do I think it's a bad idea? I do. I think it's a bad idea to go to a protest and bring a firearm. I don't think it's a good idea. I think you're increasing the odds something bad's going to happen, particularly if you're young. You're some young kid who doesn't know what they're doing. Yeah, particularly you're increasing the odds of bad things happening. I think it's a bad idea. It doesn't mean it's illegal. It doesn't mean the Second Amendment goes away. None of those things are true. So that's why I'm bringing up the Second Amendment. And why do I bring it up even now, being in Western New York? Because in Western New York, this is the place where so many people are trying to fight the New York State SAFE Act. You're not seeing it really. Thank you. Yes, please. Yes. You are not seeing people really fight it that much downstate at all. It's just the way it is, and they're kind of okay with it. Some do, but it's just very rare. Western New York, you find a lot of people actually trying to fight the SAFE Act and say, you know what? It's wrong. It's bad. And I stand by what I talked about in 2018. In 2018, when I ran, I was the only candidate who actually had a plan to get rid of the SAFE Act. For those of you who are gun owners, gun supporters, Second Amendment supporters, the idea of us getting rid of the SAFE Act in New York State, just getting rid of it, it's not realistic. Can we have a plan to have it be repealed? Yes. And the plan begins with non-enforcement. That's how it begins. Yes. Could I just walk up and go, it's over? I cannot. The state is too anti-gun. It's not realistic. It's not going to happen. If anything, the Rittenhouse trial has made the state more anti-gun, if anything, right? If anything, it's become more anti-gun. So the odds of that happening are slim to none. But can we do something? It begins with non-enforcement. It begins with sheriffs and DAs simply not enforcing it. It begins with a governor who will say, make the enforcement of the SAFE Act your absolute lowest priority. Literally, if you are a police officer and you have a choice of picking your nose or enforcing the SAFE Act, please clean your nose first. That is how low priority SAFE Act enforcement is. Yes, lowest priority. Once we do that, we will now have data. Okay, this area, we're not enforcing the SAFE Act. Where are all the murders? Where are the mass shootings? Where are all the deaths? Where are all the AR-15s mowing down people? There won't be any, because there haven't been any in our state. There was no need for a SAFE Act in the first place. There won't be any. Now we have an argument. It's not being enforced. It's not saving anybody. All it's doing is creating a secret state police and making legal gun owners now criminals, and worse, creating a black market not only in firearms but also in ammunition. That's what it's doing. It's creating a black market. So let's end it. And I think we could still do it within 2 years. We could still repeal the SAFE Act. It could be done, but we have to have mass non-enforcement and an executive at the top saying, why are we doing this? Now, I know there's another issue that pops up, red flag laws. And you'll find people who will say, Larry, red flag, you got to like red flag laws, right? You got to have people say the bad things and force people. But you don't. And I'll give you the perfect example. Get another urban center. New York City again. In New York City, we've been the center of terrorist attacks more than once. more than once. We've been the center of it. So you think that in New York City, you would have the equivalent of a red flag law, right? If someone is doing something bad, you by law must tell the police so that they can stop the bad guy from killing people. We had 3,000 people die in 9/11 and more. No, we don't have red flag laws when it comes to terrorism. You know what we have? We have a culture of see something, say something. That's what happens in New York City. If any of you visit New York City, you see it. You'll see it on the buses. You'll see it in the subway. You've seen it before? Yeah. Absolutely. It says, see something. People do that. New Yorkers do that. We stopped the Times Square bomber. There was no red flag law. Some guy said, that guy is doing something wrong. I don't like this. And he told the cops, and the cops got him, and we stopped it. Every single bad guy attack is always stopped the same way. A vigilant population. That's what stops them. Now you might say, well, Larry, red flag laws, they make the population more vigilant. No, they force the population into telling on each other. So now there's a big difference. Once there's a red flag law, now I have to say, I have to report, because if I don't, I'm liable. So my common sense goes out the window. Only fear is there. My common sense goes out the window. Now what I start doing is I start reporting everybody, because if I don't, I go to jail. I get punished. So now I'm reporting my neighbors who shouldn't be reported. But more than that, now it's a law. So when the cops come, when I call and say, that guy's looking kind of shady, the cops must act. It's a law. And they're going to put you in jail, and you had nothing to do with nothing, and put you on a list. That's going to happen. It's happening now. But when it sees something, say something, it's only when, well, that guy is shady. Now I call the cops. The cops don't have to react. So they check it out. They ask me questions. Is he doing this? He's doing that. He's doing this. Okay, he's fine. Let it go. Oh, he's a bad guy. Let's go get him. Now individuals figure things out. Well, Larry, can we trust that? It's been working in New York City for 20 years. I have 20 years of data in the country's largest city to say, yeah, it's been working. It can work. When people care about their communities, they defend it. That's how it works. It can work. There is no need for SAFE Act. There's no need for red flag laws. And I will talk about the Second Amendment even after something like this happened. It doesn't change. All your rights, all the time. Thank you, guys. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments somebody might have. Please, go ahead.
Say something would have helped 9/11 if the Minnesota, Minneapolis FBI field office is reported and taken seriously.
You bring up a great point. Thank you for that. Most people don't know this. See something, say something was working at that point, but the government dropped the ball. Yep. Right? Absolutely. This actually happened. For those who don't know that story, there were people who were going to learn how to fly planes, and they weren't learning how to land them. And the instructor said, wait a minute, you don't want to learn how to land a plane? They're like, no, it doesn't matter. They're like, well, okay, that's kind of weird. Why would you not want to learn how to, you want to fly it, but you don't want to land it? Like, yeah, we don't care. So they called the FBI and said, I think these dudes from Saudi Arabia might be doing something crazy. They're literally, and the FBI was like, whatevs. So see, they said it would have worked there.
The local FBI office took very seriously.
Of course.
FBI people did not.
Yeah, it's funny how local took it seriously. Huh. What guy is out here talking about how important local is? Huh. Yeah. I'm the one talking exactly that. Because you're right. Because local people care about their communities. They live in it. They have family. They have friends. They have businesses. They went to school here. They care about the local communities. We do that, and things begin to work. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Totally true. Absolutely. Any other questions or comments?
What's your take on the COVID mandates and then the mandate bans at the different levels, at the federal level, the state level, and the local level?
I will make some people unhappy with this, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't like the mandates or the bans on mandates. I don't like the state government saying you may or you may not. I don't like that at all. I think the individual people in their own communities, in their own businesses should be deciding. That's the issue. I know some people are like, no, well, we're good to have the government say no. No, you should be able to decide in your world what makes the most sense for you. And I know the response though, Larry, but then people will die. They're dying now. And the same world people are dying, right? It's a group of people who tend to be over 65 with pre-existing conditions. Those people, COVID is tearing them up. That's true. But now most of them are vaccinated or have decided how they're going to fix themselves, or they're dealing with the issue the way they want to deal with. And that's fine. And that's fine. In my view, if I was over 65 with pre-existing condition, I would rush to get a vaccine. That's what I would do. It doesn't mean you have to. If you care about my opinion, I'm happy to tell you. But you don't have to do it. My opinion is not binding upon you in any way, shape, or form. The First Amendment also matters. So I get to have an opinion on stuff. So I can say, and I actually don't even have a problem with the governor or the mayor or whoever saying what they feel. The president saying what he feels. I don't have a problem with that. The president thinks that the vaccines are the greatest thing in the world. He should be able to say so all day long. But he shouldn't force you to get it. He shouldn't force you to get it. But he has every right to have an opinion like anybody else. I don't mind at all. Talk about it all day long, whatever he thinks. You should wear 5 masks. Awesome. If you think so, tell the world you should wear 5 masks. I'm totally fine with that. That's your opinion. But people should then choose to do so or not. So the mandates, the reason why the mandates actually in the long run are very hurtful, regardless of whether the mandates would actually save lives or not, isn't my point. They're hurtful because they cause rebellion, because people will fight back. And there are some people who are probably benefited by the mandates who will decide they're not going to do it now. And some people who are taking a mandate where it has no value whatsoever, who are just following orders. So I'm encouraging people to follow orders, and I'm encouraging people to rebel. I'm not encouraging people to think clearly. That's what I want. I don't want you to blindly follow orders, and I don't want you to rebel. I want you to think clearly and do what's right for you and your family and friends, your own health. That's what I want you to do. And the government is not encouraging either of them. And that's why I'm against it. Yes. Excellent. Any other questions or comments, please?
I was at a meeting earlier this week that a assembly person was at.
Okay.
And she explained that basically the state has already outlawed natural gas. That as of 2024, no new building, no new homes that are built can have natural gas appliances, or I think including heat. And as of 2030, you can't replace any of your natural gas appliances in your own home. I don't like that idea. What do you think?
Look, the reality of it is, again, I'll go back to it again. If people think that natural gas is bad and that we shouldn't have it in New York State, I don't have a problem with you having that opinion. I don't have a problem with you investing in companies that are doing, other types of renewable energies. I don't mind you trying to come up with a plan that makes other people, do it because they think it's the awesomest, coolest thing in the world. You can actually, get special T-shirts that say, "I hate natural gas." All good. But why in the world is the government deciding you can't? I'll go back to it again. When you do that, people are going to rebel. And what's going to happen? There's going to be a black market in natural gas. I'm not joking. In natural gas appliances, all types of things. And now someone's house is going to have a problem because of that. You are going to have more people die because of that. If this is a good idea, and we say it all the time as libertarians, good ideas shouldn't require force, right? Shouldn't require force, right? If it's really that good, we should just figure it out and do it. You actually want people to drive electric cars? Great. Create more electric stations all over the place. People will start doing it. You don't have to force them. They'll start doing it. Make electric cars cool. People like cool stuff. They'll start buying them. Make them cheaper. People like cheap stuff. People will start buying them. People, what's the company? Is it Ford that's doing that way? Electric pickup truck? Is that right? There we go. Yes, Ford's doing it. Why? Ford's saying, here, we got cool pickup trucks. And people are buying them. The evidence is here. If you want people to not do certain things, you can create an environment where people will voluntarily do it. And some people will be stubborn. I'm going to do it. Great. That 1 or 2 people or 3 people are going to do it. Are they really affecting the environment? If it comes at a smaller point, who cares? If you got one guy who wants to drive a Hummer for the rest of his life, fine. A couple people will drive Hummers the rest of their lives. The world's not going to end because of that. If the vast majority of people are moving to what people believe is sustainable or smart or green, and I'll go one step further. What if none of it matters? What if we're wrong? And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're on natural gas or electric cars or whatever. What if none of it matters? So what? Do what you want. Right? If you want to drive an electric car because you want to save the earth, good for you. If you don't drive an electric car because you think it's super cool because you like Elon Musk, good for you. Who am I to decide that? I know I sound like I'm a broken record, But the same thing applies. If it's valuable, we should talk about it and get culture and environment to change. And then people will change. But the best part is, and let's say that I decide that I'm the governor and that the only answer is solar power. There's no other answer. That's the answer. I'm going to force everybody to be on solar power. We're going to force people to put solar power panels on their cars, on their houses, in their backyards. We're going to force it all. We're going to make mandates. Everyone's going to go do it. Then we find out 5 years later, it's not efficient. It's bad. In fact, the solar panels, they're worse for the environment than I'm making this up. I don't know if it's true. I'm making it up to make an argument. Maybe it's true. They're worse for the environment than anything else, right? Can I now change my mind? I can't. I used force. I shut down businesses. I took people's homes. I confiscated their land. How can I now go back and go, oh, see, I know you had a house. Whoops. That's not going to work. But if I simply said, hey, guys, I think it's right. And here's the reason why. I think it's the right answer. And here's why. And you guys voluntarily stop putting up solar panels all over the place. If I find that I'm wrong, I can just go, hey, I found new information. I was wrong. The real answer is this. You guys go, oh, that sucks. You'll change them over. I didn't force you. You made a choice. And some people will keep it because they like solar panels. The force aspect, I can't tell you how important it is. And I'm going to bring this back to the Rittenhouse case, believe it or not. I'm going to bring it back to this because it does come back to this. People are saying things like, why did the prosecution keep pushing certain issues in the Rittenhouse case when it looked like they were losing? Because they had already doubled down on force. How do you come back from that? You can't. How do you come back from that? Why do so many people, pundits, who were saying this is wrong or that is wrong, why did they stay on the same thing? I brought this up last night. There are so many people who don't know what actually happened in the Rittenhouse case. You said 4 people. I thought 3. Right? I don't remember. Because there's so many people just said stuff and yelled and screamed and called people bad names. How do you go back from that when you're so adamant? You don't. You just keep doubling down on whatever thing you said, and you hope people don't realize that you're actually full of it.
Now they're in legal trouble too.
Yep, there we go. Yes. So this is a problem. Force is a very good short-term answer for almost anything, right? I don't have any money, pull my gun out, give me a wallet, I now have money. Short-term solution, well done. Long-term, we got problems. So let's not resort to force. If that makes any sense. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you all. 3 more events today.